Richard here from Colleges and Crafts Plus. It has been a while because this has been a project of love and it has been a long one. Previous video I tried to build a drawer with some shoddy equipment that wasn't very accurate. It didn't work. It led to another video with a naughty frog project and finally succeeded in building this drawer. Very happy about that. Not noteworthy for anybody else because it's just a drawer, but I wanted to put this equipment in here, this old car audio equipment, get it up and running in a way that was going to be resistant to the dust in my shop, because I had modified this chest freezer that wasn't being used to put audio equipment into it, just a interior residential receiver. Had a video on that. It eventually died. I needed something to get music back into my shop, but I didn't want to destroy this equipment. So here's my drawer on a stand I'd already built. Now, in this position, it's made to be moved. The speakers are locked together on my articulated arms, and I'll show that in a minute. But mostly they're back there to keep it balanced because the drawer is quite heavy without the speakers out or the weight of. So I have these latches that I put in to keep the drawer from coming out. And that is how I keep the dust out. So, real quick, I'm gonna put this out of the way. And I'm gonna put some music on. Get the speakers out, get in a position where I can move it around. So, power is a box custom made with a 15 amp whip on it and a dedicated GFI arc fault plug in there, and then a surge protector running just the power supply for the amp. Now when you turn on that switch, it flickers because I'm on an extension cord since it's out from the wall. That turns on the first controller, fan controller, that pulls air just through the power supply itself. Now, if I were jumping a car or just charging the battery, great, no problems. Possible is that it can pull air in from the other ports inside. Now, if I'm working in the shop and running it, clearly I'm going to have this on. The battery is essentially plugged in now. It gives me power to my head unit, and then also turns on the other fan controller that turns on the other 4 fans. So now I have positive airflow from the top down that actually pulls in from there. Vent's not in right now. And then my unit comes into standby. Now if I flip it over to tuner, it will automatically set its time and date from the feed that they provide. But for the purposes of YouTube, I have downloaded some YouTube free, license-free music. First time I'll be able to actually have music. Let's put it on random. Nothing fancy, just a couple of boards with a hair tie. All right, so when you turn on the amplifier, the remote also provides power for these LEDs. They are tapped directly into where the remote is. The remote is on a relay separate from the head unit, has its own fuse, 5 amps, so plenty of power to turn on the amps and still provide power to these. Cut them short so that they'd fit. Now, our amp, rather, when we turn on the main power, It turns on our PowerMax 100 amp variable voltage, as well as 3-stage charger. Right now it's in variable fixed 14.4, and then we have our own dedicated fan which has its own temperature that is behind the vent. Now I did this because this has its own fan, but it does not stay on all the time. It only comes on when it gets warm and it's quite loud. So in this case, now it doesn't run. I know it will run. I tested this unit before I put it in here, but this prevents it from doing that. Power comes off to a breaker that enables me to cut it off from the rest of the system, because my fuse block also has a whip on the other end that comes off to another breaker that feeds the external ports. That way I can put a, hopefully in the future, upgrade 14.4 excess power, I believe it is, battery on the bottom, that this cart will then be wireless, so to speak, if I choose. But this enables me to cut one off from the other, and now I will, when I put the battery on there, put a battery charge maintenance device, something to keep track of its charge state. But fuse distribution comes over to my full farad capacitor for the subs, half farad capacitor for the mains, and this is a one-off. This is well beyond what is necessary gauge-wise, but this wire goes back 30 years. Well, I bought it when I was 17 for an SUV sound system that needed it. Been trucking it around. I still got a bunch more, as well as the blacks. The fuse distribution block is new. The full farad capacitor was bought at the same time as the wire. The half farad capacitor was bought like a year or so later with a different vehicle that didn't fit in. You know, the fan controllers are new for this system. There are my step down voltage for the fan systems because they're lower voltage. Then I have all these distribution blocks for the fans, for the head unit, the relay units, and this is how it would live normally. This is a modified air filter that was 1 inch wider. It was as close as I could get to the dimensions of what I needed. And then I, with an iron, used to separate the hot glue, peel it back, compress it, modify it, etc. Put it back together. So, on the back, this is the access panel for my battery upgrade, more or less just to be able to access the power supply from the exterior. And that's for my antenna. It's a 3-foot whip. I'll do a 3-foot whip for the headphone, or rather for the microphone at some point. Just didn't think about that at first. This is wired all the way directly into the head unit, and then it just gives me a place to wrap it up when I'm moving it around. And this is what I came up for my wires out. I had considered just having wires dangling out the back, but it just didn't seem very clean finished. And plus, this whole thing is meant to be removable like any drawer, and then it has its own feet so that it can sit on a tabletop, because that is how a lot of the work was done. These here are bumpers that keep me from pushing this up against the wall, but they are also feet because this can stand up. That allowed me to get to the fans and work on it as a unit. It lets me treat it as a bit more of a receiver. And then I switched to the upgraded to the banana plug so that I can when I disconnect this, unplug them, leave the wires on the trolley since they are linked to be on the trolley. And then gives me these quick access. These are from Amazon. It's a 5-panel modified. All this has been cut down and glued together to build this box. It also has the 4 channels from the head unit. I'd like to get some 3.5-inch speakers to add more. More's more, always right, yeah. And then hopefully get some 3.5-inch boxes, or ideally rebuild all of this into one unit that has the 6.5, 6x9s, the two 3.5s, the tweeters, all that in one on these articulated arms on my portable cart, my shop stereo. What do you think? I'd like to upgrade this to a solid glued piece top. This is literally from a desk that was at my parents' house. It's been cut down, chopped. It's been in the shop for a while, and that would allow me to move these further out. But it will definitely fit through a door. And then articulated arms means being able to point the speakers, you know, directly where you're working. So it is a work in progress to some degree. This is not the subwoofer that was installed in that car with these amps. It was blown. I would like to replace this with a pair of 12s, bring the amp back up to down to 2 ohms, because this is for these R2. They're pretty good, but they're beat, and I think the amp needs a little bit of tweaking. One of the channels seems a little weak, but it's, I don't know, they're 20-year-old amps. They weren't installed very well, pretty well abused. They work really well for me, and I'm down for repair anyway. But a lot of the constraints are here. The depth of this, how far down I could go, is based on researching in advance the size of the box that I wanted for the 12s that will go down here to replace this 15 that is already cracked around the outside and held together with electrical tape. I'd also like to replace this with a double DIN shallow mount touchscreen smart unit, primarily with an RCA output, or rather auxiliary input on the back. Right now, if I want to hook up my TV to watch something or listen to Pandora, or, you know, with the screen, not using my phone, I have to use an auxiliary input on the front. Not the best, but it does work. And I would just generally like to switch to a touchscreen, get rid of the CD so I don't have any more openings here where dust could be an issue. And as I said, when I get a battery, I'll have to get an additional battery charge monitor. What do you think? Suggestions, comments? I would love to hear from people. I hit all my challenges, everything I wanted to do. Make it dust resistant, make it portable, make it unique. Richard, Kludges and Crafts Plus. Drop a like, subscribe. I know it's a random assortment of videos, but that's me. I'm a random sort of interest guy. But good music is one of them. Definitely one of them. I want it crisp, clear, and as loud as I can get it.